countries, raped, pillaged, stole. Now, Reform's whole shtick is anti-immigration. The British Empire did that on steroids.
No, what? This is exactly the arguments they're using in our schools, and it's indoctrinating our children.
No,
we have to be promoting the good stuff we've done.
We can
yes,
talk
every
about
empire
both.
have done bad things,
George,
but we need to promote the good.
We can talk about both.
Okay.
What we can't do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Julian Discourse. We all know someone who thinks the only acceptable version of history is one where our country is the villain. It's exhausting, but watch what happens when that insulated progressive worldview hits a wall of actual working class common sense. In this clip, 18-year-old Reform UK Council leader George Finch goes on daytime TV and states a basic reality. The educational establishment is aggressively pushing an anti-British narrative. Instead of debating the facts, watch progressive commentator Marina Purkiss immediately jump to the elite playbook, dodging the argument, attacking his character, and trying to trap him on identity politics. If you're tired of elites rewriting our history, hit subscribe and let's get into it.
History teaching in Warwickshire.
Well, you can't do that on the county council, but there's ways you can work with the education system.
Yeah.
To be
What was your argument with the history teacher?
So, for me, I was sat in the classes in A levels and so on, and what I saw was just a complete and utter dishonesty when it was teaching about our history, especially about our monarchs, our empire. Everything was bad. You know, we did nothing good in the world ever. And I was sat there thinking, well, no, there are some good things that we've done, some really good things. There has been some bad things that the country have done, and as an empire we've done, but we've learnt from those mistakes and we move on. But for some reason, they just get so caught up on the fact that we're just a bad nation, and that's not what I can sit around and listen to. So I joined Reform UK.
Quite unusual hearing a teenager say things like this, Marina. It's quite...
Okay,
you think it's refreshing?
I think it's commendable that you're so interested in politics and have done, got to where you've got to at your age. I think it's a shame that it sounds like your motivation, though. Look, the British Empire, of course, it achieved wonderful things for Britain, but you cannot get away from the fact that they went over to other countries, raped, pillaged, stole. Now, Reform's whole shtick is anti-immigration. The British Empire did that on steroids.
Well, look, again, you're getting it wrong, and that's the type of stuff that's being taught in schools.
Did it not happen?
What, the British Empire?
Was there or was there not? Stealing of resources, raping, pillaging,
terrible things happen.
colonising. So what?
Terrible things happen.
Do you just want us to
but do you know
whitewash
what we did do? Do you know what we did do? We installed democracy, religion,
yes,
big infrastructure, trains,
so hang on. So excuse
factories.
me.
We built these countries.
If the Muslims decided to come over here and say, do you know what? We'll install our democracy. Does that work for you?
No. What? This is exactly the arguments they're using in our schools, and it's indoctrinating our children. We have to be promoting the good stuff we've done.
We can
yes,
talk
every
about
empire
both.
have done bad things,
George,
but we need to
can
promote
talk
the good.
about both.
Okay.
What we can't do is whitewash.
All right, let's talk about some things you've done while you've been council leader. Your first decision, I think, was to take down an LGBT pride flag, and you say from now on we only use British flags. Did you get support for that?
Yes, we got support for that, and that's what happened. As a result of that, yes, there were some people that didn't like that fact, but it's pretty simple. The only flags that should be raised on public buildings and state buildings is the county flag, the St George's flag and the Union flag.
But what about showing support? For example, when France had a terrorist attack, we put the French flag above the Wembley Stadium.
Look,
you don't like that?
I ain't got a problem with those things. You're standing in solidarity with with things when those incidents happen straight away. I ain't got a problem with that. And look, at the end of the day, it wasn't just about a flag or a bit of fabric. It was more about where does the power delegate to and who is in charge of that. And that's been sorted now, and that was a year ago. But yeah, look, if incidents happen, we'll look at that on a basis.
Marina, what do you think of that decision?
Why? I just think it's weird that you got to this position. You can do so much good for the people, and that's what you chose to focus on.
Oh no, we've done a lot more than that. That's just one little thing.
But why? Say, for example, the LGBT flag, the rainbow flag. Why does it offend you so much? You have to remove it.
Let's be actually correct here. It wasn't the pride flag. It was the Progress pride flag. It didn't have planning permission on the building anyway. That was the first problem, which many people don't know about. But it didn't have planning permission, so it shouldn't
that
have
as
been
an excuse a little
Yeah.
bit.
No.
let's be
It's not just that. But the main problem was that on a government building, we want to represent 630,000 people that are in Warwickshire, and everyone can be represented by those three flags: the St George's, the
George,
Union, and the county.
The reason it feels
That's it.
disingenuous is because your track record. You're a person who wants to cancel Black History Month.
I think that it shouldn't be promoted or supported by the council and local taxpayers. No, you should be
what do
supporting
you-
history no matter what.
But
You
hang
should be
on.
supporting history no matter what.
Hang on
It doesn't
a
matter.
second.
You don't get
So
you don't get
want
certain
to-
history
I got
months
it.
for
So
everyone
what
else.
I'm- what I'm
Marina
getting now
ask.
is you want to essentially choose the bits of history that are taught, which is that Britain is great and empire is great, and actually not teach the bits of history that you don't like, Black History Month, and also the communities that aren't, I don't know, core to you, important to you, gay pride, whatever. All of those things, scrap. Only talk about the
No.
stuff that is interesting to
No, not
me
at all. Okay.
and my values.
Let
you see how
let me ask
exclusive that
an important
feels?
question about something else. We were told reform councils would take down council tax. You put yours up. I can't
So-
understand that. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's like that thing, that famous thing on social media. You have one job.
So I'll explain. So I was the branch, the associate chairman for Reform UK in Warwickshire, where I got worked with a team to get the councillors elected. And I looked at the leaflets, I produced the leaflets and wrote what was on them. And we put fiscal responsibility because we knew that the financial situation of the
But council tax cuts you were promising.
However, no, we didn't promise that in Warwickshire,
Oh,
and we
come
didn't. I was in charge of the leaflet distributions, and that was not what we promised, and it was not said on the
But
doorstep.
it was said nationally.
Yeah.
Well, that's national. And
Did you tell people what they're saying nationally is wrong?
and look, what we've done on Warwickshire County Council, we're the only political party on Warwickshire County Council that had the lowest rise in council tax. We wanted only 3.8%. The Tories wanted 4.89%. The Lib Dems, the Greens, the Labour wanted the maximum they could just to spend more taxpayers' money. We said, no, we'll look between the four walls of the council and spend our money wisely. However, the service pressures are increasing. Home to school transport, £50 million. The send deficit, 150 million and rising. We cannot afford it. It's a national issue, I accept.
You should have probably looked at that and campaigned on, we will raise your council tax if you elect us, not just said, oh, blimey, that's a bit of a shock.
Have you not seen Shropshire increasing council tax to 10%, Lib Dem?
But you promised us you
wouldn't. We didn't.
You promised.
We didn't. We said we would cut tax on a national level. That's our goal, is to make sure taxes are as low as possible.
OK.
That's what we're trying to do.
I must ask you about the Makerfield by-election as well, because this is now really fascinating, massive by-election. Robert Kenyon is your candidate. Do you think he's going to win?
I'm very... I'm going up Saturday. This is the first time I've been up, and I'll go up Saturday. So I'll look at the data myself. But it's looking really promising for us.
Do you want him in
Makerfield.
Parliament? Do you want Robert Kenyon in Parliament?
A Reform UK member of Parliament that can stop Andy Burnham.
Do you want him? No. Please be specific. I want people to know. Do you want him? Because I am appalled by this man. He is a man who has abused. He's a self-admitted sexist. He says women can't drive. I'd love to test him on parallel parking, by the way. Women can't drive. He says he slates British women. Please listen. He slates British women. He slates you, saying you walk around with your bellies out, pushing your prams. But if it was a European, you would take a bazooka to get me off them. He is sick. He is a sexist. He says women use abortions as a form of contraception.
George, you can defend him.
This is the person Reform will put into government and shape legislation.
Okay.
Do you understand what's at risk?
Look. Robert's made comments previously and he's apologised for them. And he said, look, at the end of the day...
Just be a decent person and condemn it.
Joe, what? At the end of the day, we're the only political party that's putting real people, not
Scummy
politicians...
people. Don't you dare do a disservice to working class people, suggesting that Robert... Me too. Don't you dare suggest that working class people hold beliefs like Robert Kenyon. It's an insult to them.
He's apologised for those, and he's made those mistakes years ago. He's apologised for them. People, real
and he's a changed man, is he?
You can change.
I can see we've got a lot to talk about here.
That is exactly how the modern progressive left treats Western history. And what makes that exchange on Jeremy Vine so politically explosive is that George Finch, an 18-year-old who has spent his entire educational life marinating inside this progressive curriculum, is seeing right through the establishment's bluff. Finch didn't go on national television and claim the British Empire was flawless. He simply stated a grounded, undeniable truth. You cannot build a functioning, cohesive society if you exclusively teach your children to despise their own ancestors. When Finch cornered them on the reality that history must be taught in balance, Purkiss abruptly shifted the entire conversation away from education and started shouting about old, controversial comments made by a completely different Reform UK candidate, Robert Kenyon. To really understand why this daytime TV clash matters so much right now, we have to connect the dots and look at how this anti-Western historical framing was forcibly installed into our institutions. This didn't happen by accident. Let's look at the timeline. The aggressive push to decolonize the curriculum and rewrite Western history went into overdrive during the Cultural Revolution of 2020. In the United States, it was the massive institutional funding and mainstreaming of the 1619 Project, which explicitly sought to reframe the entire American founding not as a pursuit of liberty, but as a purely racist enterprise. In the UK, it was the summer of 2020, when progressive mobs illegally tore down the historic Edward Colston statue in Bristol, where the police literally stood back and watched. By late 2020 and into 2021, supposedly neutral, taxpayer-funded institutions fully surrendered to this ideology. The UK's National Trust published a sweeping, highly controversial report linking nearly 100 of their historic properties to colonialism, effectively treating British heritage sites like active crime scenes. For the last 6 years, the educational and cultural establishment has treated national pride as a pathology that needs to be cured. But here's the massive political consequence that the left completely failed to anticipate: the psychological blowback. You cannot sustain a nation if you spend billions of institutional dollars teaching its citizens that their country doesn't deserve to exist. The political landscape we are navigating today in 2026 is a direct, unavoidable reaction to this elite demoralization project. Working class voters are exhausted by the constant historical self-flagellation. They are tired of being told that flying their nation's flag is a microaggression, or that their grandparents' sacrifices were actually nefarious. The rise of populist and conservative movements across the West isn't just about tax policy or border control. It is a fundamental demand for cultural self-respect. What the elite media completely misunderstands about young leaders like George Finch is that his unapologetic defense of British history isn't a fringe position. It is exactly what the silent majority of ordinary people actually believe. The establishment is losing its grip on the narrative because everyday citizens have realized that the people demanding we apologize for our history are the exact same people trying to dismantle our future. We need to take Finch's unyielding energy into every political debate. Stop apologizing to people who hate your values, stand your ground, and force them to deal with the facts. Thank you for watching Julian Discourse. If you're tired of the media's historical revisionism and appreciate commentary that actually connects the dots, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.